Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise, and we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer, dear listener, welcome to yet another episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. It's always a pleasure to come to you, bringing you something exciting, something life-changing. My guest is an entrepreneur with a difference, Mr. Lemolemo Collins Mudadi. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mogobe. It's an
Would
honor.
you care to tell the viewer who you are and share your background with the viewer?
Basically, I am the managing director, founder, and exclusive continental partner of Energy Glass Africa, which is the world's leading nanotechnology energy solutions corporation, which has been founded since 1992. And now we're basically looking at expanding into the African continent to not only provide electricity, but suitable housing for the diaspora. And it's at a time when things are challenging.
Yes.
But
You've come to talk about Energy Glass Africa,
Yes.
correct? Isn't that your main entity? What is the company about?
Energy Glass Africa is a nanotechnology solutions company that has created the world's first photovoltaic, clear, no destruction of vision glass, for lack of a better title. We call it glass because the component that's actually meant to develop the technology is not silica, for contrary to popular belief. So
And how long have you been involved with this company?
it's a recent development. Since last year we've been in talks, and only this year we solidified the exclusive contract. And what we plan to do is basically set up a state-of-the-art nanotechnology factory, because believe it or not, the main component is found here abundantly in Botswana.
Which is?
I think we'll discuss it another time.
Yeah, okay,
Yes,
all right. All right.
But
What is disruptive innovation? What is disruptive technology? It's a word that is, or an expression that is thrown around, but what does it really mean?
Generically, it's something that comes into picture to disrupt set markets, but disruptive innovation for specific purpose and reason in its essence means an innovation or solution that's brought to basically create an entire new market or to make others redundant and still cater for its predecessors in a way that it doesn't have any competition or struggle or
Can you
friction.
give one or two examples that are known to the people?
Space travel, for example, is something that people are actually looking towards. We've been looking at NASA going up into space for many years now, and you have guys like Elon Musk now saying, look, we want to go up there and actually have and share this experience with people throughout the world. So I think over the years we'll get to see space hotels setting up. And
What is Blue Ocean Industries?
Blue Ocean Industries, basically, in a nutshell, are industries that set forth a new market, an entirely new market. So if we were to have basically flying cars, that would be a blue ocean industry, or houses in the sky. Yes. So it's something that people before have called pie in the sky ideas, but these are now coming into fruition at a very rapid rate, given the current time that when people actually racing to find solutions that can now suppress the calamity that COVID-19 has caused. And we're seeing these emerging industries throughout the world, technology solutions, business models that are being brought forth to try and compensate for the damage and also take us back to the future. I think
An average Motswana may think that this has nothing to do with them.
yes.
Can you make a case that disruptive technology is something that an entrepreneur and an average Botswana needs to know about?
Yes. Technology, for instance, in our country has been something that has basically been accepted somewhat, but there are some people that I think have a very old-fashioned way of thinking. I think we tend to undermine the rate of development. For example, if we were in Maung, which is a very robust tourist area, what's happening there right now is that we're getting a challenge in influx of tourists that are coming in because of the COVID travel bans and restrictions. This is hurting your small-scale entrepreneurs that are selling food on the road, and instead of them now focusing on the people that they were initially looking at coming in, the traffic, the physical business traffic, the focus should be on the online market. So we have to go fully digital now and appeal to the people in that sense. We have to reverse engineer the business models and the way we go about things. So it has to be done in a way that is disruptive to the challenges, and that is where the innovation comes in. You disrupt the challenges, and that's where the disruptive innovation comes together.
Can you apply it specifically to Africa and answer the question, disruptive innovations, how do they impact the continent?
Yes. I've been doing business across industries. One of the industries I've been dealing with is commodities, precious commodities, gold and diamonds. I'm an internationally accredited diamond and gold broker. Over the years, we've had a lot of friction trying to deal with other countries that have gained a very notorious reputation. Countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sierra Leone, and it's caused a very small but
with the so-called, is it dark diamonds? What are they called?
Blood diamonds.
Blood diamonds,
and
yes.
Just the business of bureaucracy in place makes it a bit difficult to do business in a way that would otherwise have had a better effect on these countries in terms of what they actually deserve as compared to what they can offer. So instead of them having to worry about them marketing the country to have people fly in, your business, tourists, we can set up something that's more central and share the platform. So one of the projects that we're working on is called the African Mineral Bank, which
African Mineral Bank.
Yes, it basically serves to have a Central African trade hub based around these commodities that will allow these countries to benefit from ease of trade that Botswana has. So we wish to establish this initiative here that will then benefit the small-scale artisanal miners throughout the continent, to give you an example.
I'm very curious,
yes,
how did you position yourself in the diamond industry? What does it take to be part of, what were the steps that you undertook?
It just takes discipline and hard work. The bottom line is that I gained an interest because I had created what was called, it wasn't something that took fruition immediately. I approached the government and I was lobbying for what was called the Botswana Diamond Royalty Policy Scheme, which would have then allowed the government to basically allocate a portion of the dividends or the revenue into dividends that every Botswana would invest into at the particular time, instead of having a CEDA and a BDC to run back and forth. You'd be allocated your own portion from the diamond dividends that we gain through the sales that have been.
Is that a concept you're selling government?
It was a concept that I initially started with, and I developed the concept to what is now called the Global Diamond Investment Scheme. We've got agreements in place with several diamond producing countries, all the way down to the artisanal miners.
Down to?
The artisanal miners, the small scale miners. We don't have that here in Botswana. But
what is the fancy word for it?
Artisan miners.
Artisan miners,
yes.
Okay.
We've got agreements with them in place to basically allow us to have a system that allows the average person to invest as little as $100, which is about 1,000 Pulu equivalent, into diamond trading or mining. So we've got a long-term and a short-term option that allows you to invest into something that is more or less contrary to popular belief, known as a dream investment. So
it sounds exotic.
Yes, very exotic, but we've simplified it. We've broken it down to the quark.
Tell me, what skill set do you have to develop to get into that?
Managerial skill sets, your basic business management know-how, but there's certain skills that you have to then encompass within yourself that will give you an edge over the competition. And it's not an easy industry to get into.
Okay.
You have to be disruptive to actually be accepted. It's a close-knit circle, the diamond industry, even locally. A lot of Botswana will think that, as I also believed in some point, that you can't acquire a prospecting or a trading license to sell diamonds as a citizen. Those are dream-like investments.
That's protected by what, the Act of Parliament? There's a law against direct involvement by citizens. It's only through government, isn't it?
It's something that we were taught to believe, but contrary to popular belief, you can apply for prospecting license
as an individual,
as a citizen,
or as a company?
As an individual with a company. But the skill sets that you require, the expertise, is what the government will vet and assess your application on, as well as your precious stones dealers licenses. There's over 100 registered diamond trading companies in Botswana. Unfortunately, over 70 of those are inactive right now because of the current situation, and prior to, because it is a tiger's playground.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's
Are
something
there significant barriers of entry into the diamond industry?
as it is with what I've experienced starting from scratch, they always will be competition as well. Lobbies for policy changes have to be made.
Yes.
So that's what we've been trying to basically establish through an organization that I work very close with. It's just the African Diamond Council. So I've been learning a lot with them and basically trying to get them to relocate here into Botswana.
Yeah, we're in the middle of COVID, so I want to ask you a direct question.
Yes.
How Botswana businesses how can they adopt disruptive ways to use COVID to expand and get ahead of the competition?
100%. It's something that I think we need to look at in a very different manner. Businesses are suffering right now, and that's because we have a very static business model approach to the way we do things. We will set a business model for business to run in a certain way for years. A business model needs to be dynamic. It needs to adapt to the current changes. So this will then allow the business owner and the stakeholders around the business to have control within the market share, one, for the business, the owners, and still create value throughout the challenges that we're experiencing at the moment. So Botswana need to then think digital. Going digital is the key at the moment. At the current time, we were experiencing the introduction of Facebook online marketing. It exploded into an $80 billion market overnight.
Yes.
And we're here sitting in a place where I think a lot of people will appreciate just the fact that when you market a business digitally, you can see the effects now in an almost immediate time. So we need to reapproach things in a way that the challenges of COVID are non-existent. It's an advantage. It's actually the best time to expand, and this is what people need to understand. It's cheaper to market your business digitally than having a bunch of people
running around with brochures.
Billboards are expensive, they don't last, not everybody sees them, and we've got solutions for these things that cater for the SMMEs and even bigger corporations.
So do you think Botswana companies, including your own, are adapting well to the situation?
I wouldn't say everybody is. A lot of people are suffering because you have a business that has goodwill, that's maybe generating 10, 20 million a year, and it's hard hit, no tenders, no contracts coming through. How do you then differentiate the revenue model that is more emphasis on the amount of money that comes into a business to the value that the business has? So we need to try and weigh the two. So I've come to a point where I've learned a bit of financial engineering with the people that I work with. It's different from finance because what they do is basically
financial engineering is different from finance.
Yes.
Explain that.
Finance deals with basically your your future value annuity of a business. We'll take Mogobe Plaza, for example, and say, in 10 years' time, Mogobe Plaza will be worth X amount.
Yes.
So we can put stock options on Mogobe Plaza. We can list it and trade it. Financial engineering, for lack of a better title, as much as they're similar, deals with the mathematical engineering of a business model for the business that basically then allows you to say, this is the value of my business at any given point in time. So if you needed to liquidate your business, it's not based on you going to a third-party financier to say, I need money, Mr. Bank, borrow me money because it's COVID and I need a bailout. Your business will bail itself out. So we consider trajectory for to say, this formula based on the way the business model is arranged gives the business value this much of credibility.
So you would have a person called a financial engineer to do that?
Yes, sir.
And you have those skills?
I have access to those skill sets.
You have access to those skills?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, value creation,
Yes,
market penetration in relation to revenue sustainability amid COVID.
Yes.
Talk about that.
That's basically more or less what I will elaborate on the past question. As it is, when you're looking at how people are trying to adapt to the COVID situation, they're looking into new ways to make money. Instead of focusing on the value creation, which is the digital marketing era that we're in. And it encompasses everything in a placenta-like approach. And at the end of the day, the revenue model that you've been focused on, if you're making, let's say, 1,000 pulas, someone who sells hot dogs, and all of a sudden that takes a dramatic decline to maybe half of that. How do you then?
Sometimes 5% of that. Yeah, sometimes it's
really
devastating.
bad. It's devastating.
We in our property company we're encountering 45% vacancies and 45% default.
That's terrible. How do you then switch to having or improving the current revenue model? That's now what we're looking at. The value implementation that you start with for your business is what determines where you go, the balance.
Yes.
I'll give you an example of Mogobe
Please.
Plaza.
Yes.
You are looking at corporate tenants in the middle of the CBD. It's a plaza. It's COVID. There are no jobs. There are no tenders, etc. You need tenants for your building.
Yes.
How do you fill in the tenants without disrupting your initial business model?
You tell me.
You could turn the place into a hotel. You can turn the floors into apartments.
Well, hotels right now, it's a terrible business.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Accommodation is something that's really big in Botswana, and the lack thereof around Gaborone. There's lack of suitable, decent accommodation, and what we've seen in places like Manhattan, the introduction of lofts, loft apartments, or one-room apartments within the city center. Yeah.
How does it work?
A loft is more or less like an apartment with maybe a one-bedroom with a kitchenette and a very small space for bachelor or bachelorette. So they've introduced these over the years in places like New York, London, for the busy metropolitan corporate society. So a place like Mogobe Plaza would be fitting for that because you have the restaurants in place and the accommodation will be right upstairs. So the guys will feel right at home. So there's no need for the guy working at F&B to go all the way back to Broadest and it's
You're putting ideas in my head. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Finding the innovation balance between using financially engineered business blueprints.
Yes.
Who writes these blueprints?
The financial engineer's job is to basically make sure that your business hits the ground running based on the formula that they set forth and based on the revenue model that you've wanted to basically forecast, looking at the type of business or the products you're selling, the services you're providing. How do we then make sure that this business here is bankable before we even get to setting up? I'll give you an example. For what I have in place right now, Energy Glass Africa, it's a point where we're setting up here, but because the slowdown is based on the COVID, the contract that I have in place is an offtake agreement that basically states that whatever energy glass interlayers that I'll be producing here in Botswana will be taken and bought back by the mother company. That equates to about 5 billion pula annually.
Can you translate that to normal English?
Yes.
I'm a bit lost.
So when you have a purchase order, you can go to a third-party financier to say, I've got a 20,000 pula purchase order to print X amount of T-shirts for campaign, for corporate company, etc.
Yes.
An offtake agreement now is similar to what Botswana and De Beers have entered into, where De Beers will buy all the diamonds from the Joining and Orapa mines. And that basically then means that the Botswana government can go to the World Bank and say, hey, because we're producing 16 million carats of diamonds from Joining mine and
the highest producer in the world by value
and quality.
Yes,
yes, definitely. The World Bank say, okay, fine, because De Beers is giving you an offtake agreement to buy all these diamonds at, let's say, $100 per carat. That means that the Botswana government's diamonds agreement, the value, is worth that amount on an annual basis, and if it's a lifetime agreement, that annuity will carry over those years. So the value of the business itself determines where we go forward with the balance of the revenue model now. To say, how do we then exert the value into actual cash flow liquidity? Yes.
It's very, very interesting. I don't understand half of it.
Very technical.
Very technical.
Yes, sir.
Can you give examples of extremely disruptive projects and businesses that are being implemented in Botswana?
For example, I'll go back to my corporation, Energy Glass Africa. We've done testing as far as 95, 96 with the American Department of Defense. Energy glass is a standard bomb-proof, bulletproof, hurricane-proof, typhoon-proof, missile-proof, building component, tsunami-proof.
What's it made of?
It's made of graphite.
Hey.
Yeah. So graphite is the raw material that we'll be using to basically manufacture the glass. We call it glass again for lack of a better title. It's not made of silica like normal glasses.
It's not really a transparent glass in the standard sense.
It's in fact the only transparent photovoltaic system in the world. It's a clear glass panel. You can see through it and you can build with it.
Oh.
So we can build entire structures with energy glass.
Oh.
So you can imagine how disruptive that is to the construction industry in Botswana. The guys,
and it's affordable?
It's highly affordable. And the fact that we're setting up here, we'll be getting into the mining of the graphite. We're set to drop the cost of it to less than a fifth of what they're producing it for right now, which is about $300 per square foot.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's extremely affordable.
And are there already houses or structures in place which have used this type of glass that you know of?
In Botswana, no. It's a recently established business here through what we've been discussing.
In other parts of the world?
Only in America, Europe, and
maybe Dubai?
a bit of Asia. Exactly. Dubai is one of the countries that have favored the glass component.
Okay.
We're introducing something called PACE financing. PACE financing basically allows your building to pay for itself through energy glass. All the excess electricity that's produced with energy glass is fed back onto the grid. So in turn, and in short, we're turning every single person into an independent power producer. Yeah.
How does that work? How do
you
save on your BPC bills?
You don't even need BPC after that. You tell BPC.
So how does it work?
With energy glass, we can manufacture it to your needs. So let's say you needed 10,000 watts running Mogobe Plaza. We will manufacture energy glass to that specific requirement, and any other lamination process that you need. We can laminate it to ceramic, the tints that you require, color of the glass, but above all of that is the power output that you're looking at. So we can set the Mogobe Plaza energy glass output to create an excess amount that can be fed back onto the grid to supply the surrounding buildings.
Wow.
Yeah, and
So you entirely eliminate BPC
you
bill.
entirely eliminate
And right now during COVID, where BPC has increased
the tariffs.
its tariffs twice.
It's a big opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes, and you're making everybody understand that going off grid is the way forward. The amount of electricity that is lost during transmission from Rupule, for example, to here, and the amount of times we've gotten power cuts is now a thing of the past. And I think it's
So
it's
how resistant is BPC, since that theoretically you are eventually going to make them redundant?
I think there's nothing they can do about it. We have to look at the fact that there will always be dinosaurs as we go forward in time, and it's something that they can embrace.
Yes.
I'm always willing to make sure that we go as far out to make sure that the product that we have in place is as user-friendly as possible, as easily implementable as possible, and as affordable as possible.
So you will sooner or later be setting up a factory, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is it a massive undertaking?
It's a bit of a cost, but I think it's something that the country will look forward to in terms of the employment creation.
Are you going to have a pilot project to get it off the ground?
We're shooting straight out. Yes, sir. It's a go big or go home approach. And,
Yeah.
we've got an area of investors. We have tried to engage the government. I think
Yes.
they're a bit inundated with the whole COVID situation. So we're carrying forth with construction.
When you say go big or go home, that sounds to me like your philosophy.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain that to entrepreneurs who may be watching? Why do you believe
Yes.
that is the right approach?
All right.
Go big or go home.
In 2013, I met a gentleman that inspired me. He's the owner of the largest private corporation in Africa. He's my current mentor. And he said, look, I like your thinking.
You have a name?
His name is MC Fulangenge. He's actually the world's first black diamantier. He's the chairman of the African Diamond Council as well. And when I met him, I was a few years down the line. And he said, if you're all in or nothing with me, there's nothing and there are no limits to what you can achieve. Their company slogan, GFPI Corporation's company slogan is, difficulties we overcome immediately and possibilities may take a little longer. So that inspired me to say, you know what?
Difficulties we overcome immediately,
Yes.
but possibilities may take a little longer.
Possibilities may take a little longer.
I like that.
Yes. So he's inspired me to become big in the thinking. And I think that's something that local entrepreneurs need to grasp, to think locally and act globally. So at the point that we're at, I think there's a lot of interesting things. I wish we could have a
More
scenario
time,
where,
yeah.
yes, sir.
But I want just to touch on one or two
Yes, sir.
concepts that you're involved in.
Yes, sir.
MULA Digital Asset System.
Yes,
What
sir.
is that?
I developed MULA Digital as a system about 4 years ago, looking at the constraints of the cash flow in Botswana. It's something that I think I've identified to become one of the biggest development hindrances in our country. The ease of flow of money from one person to another. MULA Digital Asset System allows the average person to send as little as 50 tebe from their phone to another person's phone free of charge. And this is not only meant for the Botswana region or country, but the entire continent. In fact, you can use MULA all over the world.
Is it running? Is it working?
We're about to launch end of this month, alongside the Global Citizen Investment Scheme, which is a crowdfunding platform that I also created. So MULA is basically going to become the crypto wallet for the platform, allowing people to invest into any project from anywhere in
You
the world.
mentioned the Global Citizen Investment Scheme.
Yes, sir.
Given that a lot of citizens now are talking about empowerment,
Yes, sir.
how does that work?
The blueprint basically is focused on giving the average citizen a fair chance in getting funding for whatever business that they might need, or a fair chance in getting the minimal input in investing, the capability to invest into a project possible. With regards to what I mentioned about the Global Diamond Investment Scheme, we have ongoing mining projects and prospecting projects, diamond and gold, here in Botswana. So we're allowing the average person to say, here's my 1,000 pula, please put it into the scheme.
Is it like crowdfunding?
It's crowdfunding in a bigger essence, because the only thing that I will commend the Botswana government for, and for over this period of time, is that they don't regulate crowdfunding, as opposed to other countries that heavily tax it, and it's bureaucratic in places like America.
Isn't that a matter of time?
I think
before they do that?
They've looked at it at that perspective to say, we're waiting for someone to come and lead the way, and we'll use that framework that they've set as our regulatory set of rules. And this is what I've discussed with MBFIRA over the years, to say, we're waiting for you. Bank of Botswana is saying, we're waiting for you. And things come into place where now I think the COVID situation and post-COVID will reveal the scope and the scalability of the solution, not for only people in Botswana, but throughout the world.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mudadi, as we get closer to the end of our conversation, you have a chance to ask me one question.
Yes, sir.
And then it's a new feature we are trying out on this show.
100%.
And then we see how I respond.
At this point in time, I've enjoyed seeing Mogobe Plaza coming up, and how far you've come along with since...
You're talking about the building?
The building itself.
Yes.
I think, I'm not sure if you remember, some years ago you invited us to come here. Before there was nothing.
Yes.
This was barren land.
Yes.
And you told me the plan of this place. And I would like to know, how far along do you see yourself with the milestones that you reached? Do you still see yourself as someone that wants to improve the building in terms of where it's structured, the usage of land around you, and the environment in itself?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a great question. Actually, Mogobe Plaza is phase one. There's
Yes,
phase two. We have architects who've already developed a blueprint, to borrow your word,
Yes, sir.
where they've a drawing of a 20-story building,
Oh.
which is estimated to cost between 350 and 500 million. So the idea is that post-COVID,
Yes, sir.
we'll start approaching our financiers and look for partners
Okay.
to see whether we can partner with people to develop the project. So we have every intention of expanding the land in terms of attaining what is called the highest and best use for this large piece of land. So we do have long-term, medium and long-term objectives, which have been unfortunately disrupted by COVID.
Yes, sir.
Had it not been for COVID, we would have already maybe submitted the plans and so on.
Yes.
But COVID has had a cascading effect, is that the right word? A negative effect
Yes, sir.
on our cash flow, and we've had to pick and choose which projects to proceed with. So this is one of the projects that we have shelved. But yes, long term, we want to develop not just the balance of this piece of land, but to develop other pieces of land. We have land we want to develop at Extension 10. We have about 4 or 5 other sites in the surrounding areas in Gaborone.
Okay.
So that's a short answer to your question.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I hope you contact me by the time you start building, so I can provide the energy glass.
Absolutely, absolutely. I need to understand more.
Yes, sir.
So you need to share more information
Definitely.
on this, and then maybe interest my architects and maybe convert them. Because some people don't know about this energy
Definitely.
glass at all.
Yes, sir.
All right. Before we part, can you look at the camera? I believe your camera is this one
Yes, sir.
or that one.
Yes, sir.
And share 1 or 2, motivational words, 1 or 2 inspirational words to,
Yes, sir.
as the viewer must be, keen to really. It's a take home.
Yes.
I want you to give them a take home.
Yes. For the viewers at home and the young entrepreneurs, just start. Doesn't matter what you have in place in terms of funding, just start. Start with that little business idea, start with that 100 pula, just start. You'll get there.
Wonderful. How do people get in touch with you should they want to carry this conversation about the glass business or other disruptive technologies that you are currently working on?
We have a website. It's www.energyglass.com. I'm also available on WhatsApp Business, 7199-2746. And I've set up the Energy Glass Africa page on Facebook. I'm available also on Facebook. I work 18 out of 24 hours all the time. I'm up. I'm
Yes.
active because of having international partners. So I hardly have time to sleep. So I'm always available for conversation.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yes.
Join the club. You're
Yes,
an
thank you
entrepreneur.
very much, sir.
Yes.
Thank you very much,
The
Mr.
only
Mogobe.
time you rest is when you sleep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Thank you very much for coming
It's an honor.
to yeah.
And it's
yeah.
a pleasure, sir.